Welcome to the 2023 Vanguard Men's Soccer Season Preview. I'm here with Vanguard head coach Jesus Miramontes. And coach, we go into the 2023 season. It's year two. You had a successful year one, double-digit wins, GSAC Tournament title, and a trip to the NAIA Tournament. So, what is the plan for year two in terms of the goals for this year's team?
I think just kind of going off of the success that we've had last year and just the numerous years before that, I think we're really, we got a very good veteran crew coming back, and I think they're ready to kind of even go even further. But I think just what, obviously what we've been building on within the past, 20-something years of just trying to be one of the top teams, not just in the GSAC, but across the nation. We're just looking to try to continue to elevate the program, not just on the field, but off the field as well. But I think we're this year's team is ready and poised and excited to get back to action.
You are a long-time assistant here, so you've been familiar with the program. You played here. It's Vanguard in your blood through and through. But the head coach for the first time last year, what lessons did you take in last year that will help you serve this team in a better capacity in year two?
I think just to trust myself, trust God in the process of all this as well, and to trust my staff. I think it's obviously being underneath Randy for so long and learned a lot of great things from him, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to do things a little bit different on kind of how I go about my business and tactical things. But I think just trust in the guys, trust in Shai and the rest of the coaching staff, and I think that's what I kind of learned, and just being able to kind of him and I work together, because we haven't worked together, and I've never been in charge of people underneath me. So it was definitely a learning curve in that aspect. But I think him and I, now with the year underneath our belt, we're a lot farther along now than where we were at this point last year. So it'll be a great season coaching wise, and I think that the players that we worked hard on obtaining and bringing in, I think that we're ready to go.
Now, obviously, you had a good team last year. It was a very competitive team that got to the NAIA tournament. 10 of those starters are back. You have, looking at your roster, you have several appealing newcomers, guys that I think, in talking to you before, are going to make some sort of an impact. So how does this year's roster look compared to last year's? Where do you think the improvements are so far?
I just think in the overall improvement of the maturity. So you have a lot of now upperclassmen, a lot of seniors, and a lot of a couple of grad guys that came back. So I think just the maturity level. I think the leadership level. I think just those guys are just a year older, a year wiser, and I think those guys, those upperclassmen, are really leading this program in the direction we want to go. Definitely going to have some holes to fill, but especially in the back line you lose an All-American like Robles, and those are some big shoes to fill. But I'm excited for the guys that we did bring in. I think they're poised, and I think they played at a high enough level for us not to skip a beat. So excited.
Well, let's go into some of the position groups and put some names out there. You start with your forwards and the number of goal scorers you had on your roster last year. The three main ones are back: Stuart Albayero, Robert Ronco, and Aiden Doherty. Talk about those three guys and also the other players that are going to add to the forward position for the Lions.
Yeah, so it's, dynamic-wise up top, we're very, very good. With like you said, with Stu and Doherty and Ronco, who, I thought should have been freshman of the year with the conference that he had. I think he has something to prove. I think he had like 5 or 6 goals in conference last year, and he was on fire. So with those three guys, and not even talking about, you know, a Luca Flores, you know, that could come on, and a Nate Gomez, who's now a senior. I mean, we have a very powerful front line, and any one of those 5 or 6 guys that come on, it's like we don't miss a beat. I think we're very deep up top, and we're going to put teams under a little bit of pressure, and you know, we're gonna give ourselves a chance to score some goals, and does it happen at the end of the day? Well, you know, that's to be seen.
Coming at them in waves.
Absolutely.
If you look at the midfielders, and the first name that comes to mind is all GSAC, 2-time all GSAC performer, Marcus Garcia.
Right.
What about him and the rest of the midfielders that are going to help this team succeed?
You know, I mean, the spine of the back line was obviously, you know, Jesse last year, and losing him's a big, you know, kind of a big hole. But I think with what Zach and Marcus and Jesse did last year in the middle of the park, there wasn't a better defensive of triangular in the middle of the field last year. So I think with those three, you know, with those 2 guys coming back, you know, Zach and Marcus being a year older, a year wiser, and then just being able to play together, and then with the addition of a Jared Sabarski in there, and Austin Tubbs, who's going to be in there, and we still have you know, Nico that's going to be playing in there as well. So those guys are ready to go, and they know the position and what's expected of them. And then we haven't even talked about a Sidney Dina, who's one of the top, you know, was the top players at the Division I high school level, and he's very, very good, and he's going to play some minutes for us as a true freshman. So, and that's a difficult task.
And a guy that had some Division I offers.
Absolutely, yep.
Like.
Yep. So yeah, so he was, you know, there was a couple of Division I programs that were after him, but I think God led him here, and we're super excited to have him.
And then we look at the back line, and you mentioned Andrew Robles. He was the kingpin of that, and helped 2 years ago. The Vanguard Lions are one of the top defensive teams in the country. But you still have some talent back there as well. Christopher Sanchez and Jojo Hernandez and a couple of other newcomers as well. What are you thinking so far about what they've done in practice and how they're looking right now?
Yeah, I really went after some veteran guys that could just step in there. It's always tough to replace an All-American player like a Robles, and then Harold as well. I mean, Harold was a 4-year, you know, a 5th-year guy for us, and started his last 2 years here. So both of those guys in the center of the park are going to be definitely hard to replace. But you also look at, you know, Jojo Hernandez, who's probably, you know, the best lockdown right back in the conference. And the tough part when you have a Robles and a Harold next to you, it's tough to get those accolades. But Jojo's poise and you know, it's tough to get around him. And then Sanchez on the other side, he's a year older, a little bit more mature. He came in super fit. And then, you know, we had a couple of guys, a couple of JUNCO guys with you know, Edwin Gonzalez and an all-conference selection in Cooper Clark. And then a D2 transfer in Slater and Hammer. I think those 3 guys are going to be battling it out for that center back spot, and it's I don't even want to miss a beat. And we all know the success of your team is your back line and moving forward. I mean, the way our back line turned it on last year late, we weren't giving up goals the way we were in the beginning of the season, and that's what helped us win the conference tournament.
And it sounds like competition is going to prevent complacency, that these guys know that they have to fight for a spot in the 11 and to get playing time game by game.
Correct. And I think that, you know, every single guy that I brought in can challenge for some minutes and challenge for some spots. And that hasn't been in the past, but I think this year we are very, very deep in every position. 2, if not 3 deep in every single position. Now it's good for competition. It makes my job a little bit tougher at times, but you know, we also got to make sure that they're doing the right things on and off the field, right? So to make my job more difficult as far as who's playing, and it's going to be a matchup things at times. You know, I mean, bigger players or smaller players, crappier players. I mean, all those guys are versatile and what they do and how they go about their business. So it's going to be a game-to-game decision, and all these guys have to be bought into what we're doing and how we're going to do things. But it's not something that's set in stone, and I think with the depth that we have, it's going to be a fun year.
And last but not least, we got to talk about goalkeeper Edwin Monterosa, who started pretty much, I think, every game last year as a freshman. So he's got a year under his belt. He's a little bit more seasoned. What kind of improvement do you see from him as he appears to be the stalwart for the Lions in goal?
Listen, to come in as an 18-year-old freshman and play every game is very, very tough. You know, I mean, and I don't care what level it's at. Just the strength, the speed of play, all that combined is very tough. So I think he did a good job last year, but I think it was kind of eye-opening at times when he struggled in some areas where I think he's a lot more mentally focused this year, and I think he's going to be the catalyst of that back line. I mean, he's really kind of becoming a leader, and I said you don't have to be an upperclassman to be a leader. So he's really kind of stepped up into that role and demanding of his back line. And I think with him, he can be one of the top contenders at the as a goaltender this year. But he's very, very good. His distribution's great. And I think he's gotten a lot stronger this year. Where last year I think he came in a little bit more not knowing and naive about not knowing the strength of some of these guys at this level.
Excellent. Now let's go talk about the schedule, because obviously winning games is the name of the game, and you want to start out the season with a tough non-conference schedule. It appears that you have just that in front of you, and an early season road trip to face a couple of nationally ranked teams. Talk about that challenge that's ahead of you.
One thing that we look at is just day by day. We open up with Soka at home. I mean, that's one that we got to get through right away because they always give us a tough match. But I think going on a road to Ohio to play University of Northwestern Ohio and play Cumberland's two top 25 teams that are very, very well respected, and they're going to be very good. They're going to be able to hold on to the ball, and they're going to have a lot of men out there that are playing against sometimes some of our young men. They have they'll have some veteran squads out there, but for us we're going to just be disruptive in how we do things for them. So, but I think those trips prepare you for not only just the national tournament, but to come back and be ready for the GSAC tournament, because the GSAC is no cakewalk. I mean, there's still some very, very good teams in the GSAC. And it's going to be tough. I mean, especially having a target on our back.
You mentioned a target on your back. Vanguard was picked to finish first in the GSAC regular season race. A couple of teams that are no longer in the GSAC: Westmont, which has moved on into their Division II process, and San Diego Christian, which isn't fielding a program this year. So we've got an 8-team league. Who are some of the key obstacles that you're going to need to overcome having that target on your back this year?
I think there's 4 or 5 teams that could come out on top. Just whoever gets kind of hot and whoever starts getting some results. I think Menlo's always a tough opponent. They took us in overtime last year, and traveling to the Arizona schools. Those guys are always good. Especially out there on the road. But I think in Hope, you just never know. Those guys can put together something. Bringing in so many new guys that they're going to have the talent and the quality, and one of those rivalries that just never goes away. So I think there's 4 or 5 teams that could find themselves at the top of the table. For us last year, we were people don't realize that we were a point away from winning a back-to-back GSAC championship last year, but I think our guys are a little bit upset about dropping that game late against Masters last year. We dropped the game in the 89th minute, or else we would have been back-to-back champions. So I think on the focus side that we have to be ready to go. It doesn't matter who the opponent is, and ultimately I'm going to give them a blueprint, and my staff and myself will put something on paper, and they got to go out and execute whatever it is. The X's and O's have still got to come together, but I think with the staff that we have as well, we're going to give them a good chance for them to be successful.
And lastly, this is the final year for Vanguard in the NAIA. The NCAA accepted Vanguard's petition to go to the NCAA Division II level. So being that this is the last go-around, how much pressure, or is there any pressure to kind of leave your legacy with that last championship? You know, to say that you were able to do that and to have that imprint on the program forever.
Yeah, I would love to go out on top. I mean, that's kind of what you want to do, is just kind of leave here saying that we were successful, you know, throughout all these years. And I think I built this team to have a run at a national championship and to perform well in the first year in the Pac West. I brought in, you know, 4 or 5 JUCO transfers, Division II transfers. So I think we are ready and poised and have the ability to go out there and first of all, you know, compete for a GSAC championship, but then go into the national tournament. I think that's super important for us to get there. And then once you're there, it's you know, it's one game at a time. But it's going to be a tough road. It's not going to be easy. I mean, the GSAC's never easy. You know, but I think we're ready for this year and what lies ahead of us.
It won't be long, Vanguard Lion fans, to see this team in action. The season opener at home this Saturday against SoCA at 4 p.m. We hope you can come out there and support the team, not just on that day, but throughout the season. And Coach, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.